Welcome back to Travolting, covering Bolt, with special guest Ang Gardner. Enjoy the episode.
All right, we're recording.
Bolt.
It's a bold move,
It's
Jeff.
a bold move talking about this movie. Thank you, folks, for joining us on this week's episode of Travolting, and thank you for listening last week to our episode on Hairspray. What a wild one that was.
Yeah. Look what they've done to my boy.
They massacred my boy. Stuart, you kind of went off about that.
I did.
An episode we've definitely already recorded.
Yes, definitely.
But this week, we're not talking about Hairspray. We're not talking about Edna Turnblad. We're not talking about race relations in the early 1960s. We're talking about the 2008 animated motion picture, Bolt. Starring, of course, John Travolta. And we're joined today by a good friend,
Miley Cyrus.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Miley, for coming on.
I was going to say, my first thought watching this movie was John Travolta was cast perfectly. I could not think of a worse person to cast than Miley Cyrus. She sounded like she was 25.
Well, we're going to talk about it, but she was not originally cast in that role.
By the way, it's Ang Gardner.
Yes, Ang Gardner.
It's not Miley
It's
Cyrus.
not actually Miley Cyrus.
Oh, shit. Sorry about that, guys.
Miley, get out of here.
Yeah. She wasn't originally the 15-year-old girl?
No,
Was she a pigeon?
They cast Miley as one of the pigeons originally. She's like, I know this dog. That's more Britney, but
Great. Cool. So yeah, this is not a Pixar movie. This is a Walt Disney.
This is a Walt Disney animated motion picture.
Yeah.
And it's actually a very fascinating one in the history of Walt Disney Animation Studios.
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
Oh, jumping right into the context corner. No build up this time. We are on a crunch. That's right, folks. We're having some equipment malfunctions. Pushed us back a little bit. Hopefully, you're hearing this.
All right, keep talking.
Yeah. So where this movie picks up with Walt Disney Animation Studios is they had their Renaissance period during the 90s. Which started with Little Mermaid and kind of ran through roughly like the Hercules Tarzan era in 2000.
Incredible.
After that, there was some creative mix-ups in Disney. Frank Wells had passed away. Michael Eisner was going a little crazy in charge of Disney.
Yeah.
And it kind of led to a string of flops in the early 2000s. Like the movies that might be good but did terribly in the box office.
That was Treasure Planet, right?
Yeah, Treasure Planet,
tanked.
Atlantis, The Lost Empire, Brother Bear, Home on the Range.
By the way, all good movies.
Great movies.
Yeah.
What happened? But so then, why were they failures?
They wanted to move out. I mean, this is what I know because I've read a lot about this, is that they wanted to transition out of this 2D animation into the 3D animation we see in Bolt. And so they had these incredible projects planned, and they were supposed to be bigger. Like, a lot of those movies had sequels planned. And they just, I believe it was Michael Eisner, I don't know for a fact, was just kind of like, we're done. We're going to kind of release these in February against movies that we're going to make them not do well to make us move into 3D animation, getting rid of our 2D animation. It was a big move and a move that did need to be made, but it could have been made gracefully, and it made sure that was not.
And their only success during that period was Lilo and Stitch. That was their only major success.
And I think if they could have had their way, it wouldn't have been successful.
Exactly. Which is why around that time, if we all grew up in this period.
Yeah.
We remember Lilo and Stitch was everywhere. They did 3 sequels to that movie. There was a TV show.
Right.
Like Stitch was like always on the pictures with Mickey Mouse because it was like their one success during that period in the animation realm.
Yeah.
So they went really hard onto it. Which leads into this movie, which was originally supposed to be directed by Chris Sanders, who did Lilo and Stitch. And the original conception of this movie was that it was called An American Dog. What a great title. What a great title.
Well, it's the beginning of their, like, they have these incredibly complex titles, and then it's like one word, an adjective. It's like we got Tangled, we got Frozen, we got Brave, and Bolt.
Yes. They start shifting into, and part of the reason for like Frozen and Tangled was to have a gender-neutral title. Because the princess, which this happens after Bolt, but the Princess and the Frog didn't do great at the box office. And the great suits at Disney were like, clearly it didn't do well because it has princess in the title, and boys don't want to see that. Which is why they went for Tangled and Frozen. It's a more gender-neutral word that doesn't have a specificity, so they could try and attract young boys and girls.
Wow.
There was a whole study on it. It's that the 13-year-old boy in the family picks the movie because the dad will watch whatever, the mom will watch whatever, and the little girl doesn't really get a say because the brother will really pick it because he's got a louder voice. The 13-year-old boy picks the movie.
Mm-hmm. And he's more inclined to pick the movie called Frozen than The Princess and the Frog.
I just want to point out here that I'm getting like double context cornered here.
Stuart, you were being cornered by the context corner.
By the context of this.
Yes. Yeah, Stuart knows exactly two super nerdy brunettes who spend way too much time reading, and it's like, let's get them both on the mic.
And this is why we brought Ange in for this episode. Because she obviously has a lot of information and a lot of knowledge about this period and about the animation history of the time.
I think I saw this. I was thinking about it when we were watching it. 2008. I would have seen this in theaters. I was moving, and so I think they were getting me out of the house a lot. My sister was 6, so I think I remember seeing this movie in theaters, and I was a big Miley Cyrus fan at the time.
I remember seeing this in theaters. And Stuart, do you want to know something crazy? I think this is the first John Travolta movie I ever saw.
Really?
I think this is the first.
I mean, it was everyone's introduction, right?
Because like I would have been roughly like 11 or 12 at the time, and
well, mine was Our Friend Martin.
Oh, Our Friend Martin.
Our Friend Martin was my first John Travolta experience.
Mine would have been Hairspray, I will be honest. But I remember seeing this movie, and I was amazed how much of it came back to me when I was watching it.
I felt the same because I probably haven't watched it since 2009 because I did have the DVD as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
You had the Blu-ray, right?
The DVD.
Oh, you were poor?
I was a late transition to Blu-ray, which compared to the Stuart staring at my shelves of Blu-rays behind me.
Well, I see to the left we have DVDs and to the right we have Blu-ray. You're an organized man.
Thank you. But my first Blu-ray was the Star Wars: The Complete Saga set in 2011.
Well, yeah.
Which I got before I had a Blu-ray player because I was like, clearly I need to this needs to be my jump in. Anyway, this is not the Blu-ray cast. I'm doing that tomorrow. It's a lie. But Chris Sanders, who had done Lilo and Stitch, this was going to be his follow-up titled An American Dog. And he starts going into production with it. It's going to be 3D animated because Disney's setting up their 3D animation, as Ange was saying. The first three are going to be Chicken Little, Meet the Robinsons, and An American Dog.
All which did great. I remember seeing Chicken Little in theaters.
Chicken Little starring Zach Braff, which is very funny in hindsight. But what happens right around this time, Michael Eisner gets removed from the CEO position at Disney. Bob Iger steps up to it.
And he's been there ever since, right?
Yes. Well, he just retired recently.
King. We love that for him.
And so he's running Disney at the time. His first order of business is to get Pixar back in the fold because Pixar signed a 10-year deal with Disney, and it was up in 2005, and Pixar is pretty much looking to leave Disney and join another company. Cars was going to be their last Disney production.
Wow.
And their relationship with Michael Eisner was so bad at the time that it looked like that was the reality. Which, if you look in the history, you can find the Disney contingency plans for shitty sequels to all of the Pixar movies. Because they're like, we will still own the property, so we're going to have our own teams make Pixar sequels.
And they did do that, I think.
They almost did, except they got Pixar back. Because Toy Story 3...
Definitely there was a second Cars movie that came out that was worse and badly animated.
But it was still Pixar, and it was directed by John Lasseter. That was his passion project, and it's maybe the worst Pixar movie.
That's tough.
Yikes. But they're like, the original Toy Story 3 pitch was Buzz Lightyear got recalled, and the toys had to travel to Japan to rescue him. And there was some shitty Finding Nemo.
What is with them and doing Japan remakes? Because that was Cars 3. They all had to go to Japan.
And Toy Story 2, they're selling Woody to a museum in Japan.
Yes. They're all trying to get to Japan.
Do they hate the Japanese? Are we uncovering that today?
But all those sequels got canceled because Bob Iger went to John Lasseter and said, we don't want to make a deal with Pixar. We want to buy Pixar and make you the head of animation at Disney.
That must have been fun.
They bought Pixar. John Lasseter is positioned in charge of animation of both Disney Animation Studios and Pixar.
Wow.
And that's how immediately the fun thing about this, among many other things, I'm a big Disney animation nerd, especially this period with Pixar. But what's fascinating around this time is that when it looked like Disney wasn't going to make the deal, Pixar went off and they're like, we don't have to deal with Disney anymore. Let's make whatever movies we want. Which is why the 3 movies following this deal are the most artistically, I would say, irreverent of Pixar's oeuvre. Because it's WALL-E, Up, and I'm forgetting what the third one.
Is it Brave?
No, it's because it's WALL-E, it's Up. What immediately follows Cars? Is it WALL-E?
Bug's Life? Monsters Inc.?
No, Pixar.
Not Monsters
Maybe
University.
it's just those two.
Well, because do you guys remember they had the opening where it was they sat down, Toy Story was just finished, and we wanted to talk about what we were going to do next, and that became Finding Nemo, Bug's Life.
Was it Finding Nemo?
Ratatouille.
Ratatouille.
Oh my God.
So yeah, because Cars was going to be their last Disney ones, and so Pixar was like, all right, we don't have to make aggressively because like even though the first 6 or 7 Pixar movies are great, they are with like commercial products. Like Toy Story is about toys. That's something you can sell.
Yeah.
Bugs, monsters. Finding Nemo is about a bunch of colorful fish. The Incredibles is a superhero movie. The 3 following that Pixar starts making when they don't think they're going to have a Disney deal are about a rat, a robot that doesn't talk, and an old man.
That's true.
And they all have people in them.
Yes.
They all have human beings animated in there, which I know in Toy Story there were like animated people, but very rarely on screen.
Yeah, and that's mostly just they had to.
Yeah, right. They had to. And like,
and it's not a mistake that those are 3 of the most celebrated Pixar movies.
Right.
Because the 3 they made when they're like, we don't have to make a product that Disney can sell.
Well, and we're going to talk about that in Bolt's critical reception that was nominated for an Oscar.
Yes.
What did it get beat by? Wall-E.
Yes.
As it should have been, to be fair.
As it should have been.
Watching this
Wall-E
movie,
is
I
better.
don't... Like,
yeah.
If we're going to talk about the movie itself, and I really enjoyed watching it, but I could see the beginning of their formula of like, I could tell exactly what toys they were going to sell. We've got Fuzzy, Easy Bolt. We've got I could see the wire in the kitten.
Yeah.
And then like the fuzzy hamster in the ball that's a toy. That you like a remote control. I like so clearly saw that from an exec point of view.
It's toyetic, as the this is an industry term, depressingly.
Yeah.
Toyetic. I mean, it makes sense. It's a kid's movie.
To reel it back a little from Pixar, because I was getting on a tangent there.
That's okay.
Like John Lasseter, who is now he who must not be named, is unfortunately ousted from Pixar and Disney for various allegations. But he takes over Disney Animation Studios and Pixar, and he immediately goes back to Disney and says, we're going to get back to hand-drawn animation. This was a mistake to go wholly into CG. But he's like, what are we working on? What can we like not get away from? At that point, they'd already released Chicken Little. That's out. Meet the Robinsons is like a year out. So he gives some input on that, but there's nothing that can be really like super changed at that point. Mm-hmm. But Bolt is the one movie he's able to get his claws into before it becomes like the John Lasseter show, which is Princess and the Frog is the first thing he kind of, incepted in Disney Animation Studios.
Oh, yeah, and that was 2D. That makes sense.
Yeah. And so he looks at Bolt and he's like, all right, this movie has to be made, but I don't think it's working as it is. So he goes to Chris Sanders like, you need to make some changes. I don't think this movie's really working. Chris Sanders says, no, I know how to make a movie. And John Lasseter says, cool, fired. So Chris Sanders is removed from the project.
Wow.
And who is brought in to direct it is Chris Williams and Byron Howard, who go on to do Tangled, Big Hero 6.
Is that Bryce Dallas Howard's father?
No, Ron Howard.
Ron Howard, my bad.
Byron Howard, 2 letters off. You were close.
I'll get him one.
So the 2 of them are brought in to take this movie over. They restructure the plot. They restructure the ideas of the movie.
I was wondering, because it's short. It's only an hour 30.
Yes.
And I'm sure it was originally intended to be at least an hour 45. They must have cut stuff, because I know they cut the dogfight in Vegas.
Mm-hmm. They cut the dogfight in Vegas. They streamlined the story.
It was streamlined. Boy, was it streamlined.
Because this is essentially just the plot of Toy Story. At the end of the day, it's a very similar
I was going to say it's the plot of the Odyssey, but yeah. You say your thing.
This Homer who?
It's the Truman Show plus Toy Story.
Well, because Bolt is essentially just Buzz Lightyear, thinking that he is a space ranger.
Yeah, and it's also a Truman in like the TV show world. Like,
well, when did the Truman Show come out?
95.
I think there was a really big thing in like the late 90s, early 2000s about people kind of trying to rediscover themselves and learning what they knew is no longer correct, because we saw that in the 70s and the 80s. So it makes sense that a lot of those children's shows being made by people in their like 40s who were, protesting Vietnam, maybe in the 70s, learning like the world changed a lot, 60, 70, 80, especially from what we understood of the 50s. It makes sense that it's like the world I understood is not real.
I mean, that's right around the time of The Matrix. It's all about, whether you take the red pill or the blue pill, discover your reality isn't real. Also, Stuart, should I just be co-hosting the show with Ange? Because she, too, is also talking a lot about the history of the 70s in relation to John Travolta.
Well, I'm happy to talk about the movie from a filmmaker's perspective. That was my first thing when I saw it.
There's a reason why I didn't take notes on this episode. I knew I'd be taking a backseat a little bit, which I think is nice comparatively to not Hairspray, which was last week, but the week before Wild Hogs, in which I took the reins on that
You
one
took
too.
like 5 pages of notes or something.
Yeah.
I mean, if what I came in and wanted to talk about was the kind of the first half hour of the movie.
Yeah.
Talking, like, poking a lot of fun, I thought, at specifically live production.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
yes.
very obviously animators being like, "Here, look what we can do that you can't do." I felt nearly insulted when they were like, "We can do all of this stuff and we only do it once," and the dog believes it. I'm like, there is no way you had all those cameras and all those stunts and nothing went wrong. And I know that because you can do it all at once in animation, you are making fun of me, and it's hilarious. And I'm glad I watched it again. I never would have caught that when I was 8.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
There's a boom mic. Oh, there's a boom mic.
I know. And the TV executive being like, if we go down half a rating point, this show is over. Or it's like, we're going to reintroduce a new actor for Aliens.
Yeah.
Like, the show totally goes off the rails.
And
in the
we
fifth.
reconstructed
Did anyone
your face.
notice? My biggest thing that I noticed is that they were working on season 5, episode 19. So they've been doing this for 5 seasons before. And that's exactly when shows go off the rails, at the end of 5 seasons. I don't know if anybody else caught that on the big monitors.
That is a good observation. I did not catch that. But so this John Lasseter, he replaces the director of this movie, and he tells them, you have 18 months to finish the movie.
Oh, great.
Instead of
That's why they're making fun of live production, because we could have gotten it done in 3.
You have 18 months to finish the movie. Usually it's 4 years to make an animated film.
Yeah.
Like, this movie had already been in production, so like it's not like they had to, but he's like, you basically restart the movie and you have 18 months to finish it. And they did it.
Yeah.
And who did they go to play the lead character of Bolt?
Tim Allen.
No.
I mean, he was considered.
I was thinking when I was listening to this, though, I don't know if I would have bought this movie as an adult if I didn't have a John Travolta voice, because he sounds to me like a superhero.
Yeah.
Like, when Bolt talks, I was like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing because, I read like the little trivia piece where like Tim Allen was considered. Arnold Schwarzenegger was considered.
Bolt.
I don't know about all that.
I get it's like, John Travolta still has, purely in the vocal range, a young sounding voice.
Yes.
Yeah, that dog did not sound old.
Yeah,
that sounded like a 25-year-old dog.
If it's Tim Allen, that's a 12-year-old dog.
Yeah. But the thing that's perfect about John Travolta in this movie, and I want to jump to his context corner in just a second.
Yeah.
But he, like, we talked about this in Pulp Fiction. One of his great skills as an actor is that he's very good at being aloof.
Yes.
He's very good at being, like, kind of playing the fool.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essential for this movie, in that he has all this false confidence and bravado as the character of Bolt.
And I'm going to get into a huge spiel about how this movie is really just about John Travolta's life.
Oh, God. I'm ready for it. But he's, I think, perfect casting for this character.
Definitely. That was my first thought.
And where he's at in his career at this time, I talked about last week in Hairspray that Hairspray was kind of the success he needed, even if it was also the movie that basically ended his career, for lack of a better term.
Did it end his career?
I think...
I mean, I know we're not talking about Hairspray, but...
But Hairspray was... We talked about last week that it's...
from what Jeff said last week.
Yeah, essentially. But it's the movie that... Because he'd been on a string of failures on the downhill. He was, like, getting close to losing his A-list power. And Hairspray is the movie that, like, thrust him back into the public consciousness. Everyone's like, John Travolta's in this movie. He's pretty good. Hairspray is a big success. The problem is, once he plays Edna Turnblad in this movie, it's hard to take him seriously again.
Well, to be fair, he's also older at this point,
Yes.
right? Like, how old is he in Hairspray?
He's in his late 40s, roughly.
Yeah, and he's late 40s for Bolt. I mean, I think you'd be considered lucky to still be going at that time if you were a young star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's also a highly honored role. I mean, I know it is like, who wants to play a girl, but because girls suck. But that only went to the very best on Broadway.
Exactly, and that's where it hurts him in the film industry. Because the film industry is obviously a lot more sexist.
Well, not a lot more sexist. They just didn't know. The film and theater are pretty equal on how awful they are to women, but. It was like, no one in film is gonna watch that and be like, oh wow, what a good what a good role for him. It's like, that man looks like a girl.
Yeah, exactly, and that's where people are like, ooh, the guy from Pulp Fiction, the serious actor, he's playing a woman in the screen. And he becomes like, it's right around the time meme culture is also popping off.
That poor thing.
So John Travolta just kind of becomes a joke from Hairspray, even though he's good in it and it's a good movie.
It's a great movie.
It's a great movie, but he comes off of it and it's hard to take him seriously. And everyone's like, John Travolta, didn't he just play a woman last year? And in some way, it's what derails his career. And that's why, this is the last movie we're covering in the A-list era.
This is. And something to go back to like the little quick Hairspray bit, this is a little reference to one of our early episodes, The Wild Hogs.
Yeah.
I mean,
so that came out 2 weeks ago.
We covered this with my dad, and it just something I want to point out as an observation was when we talked about the episode that what was going to air next week, which was Hairspray. The first thing my dad said, and granted, currently as it stands, my dad's 65. So at 2007, he would have been like in his 40s range or something. The first thing he said when we mentioned join us next week for Hairspray is like, "Oh, is that the movie where John Travolta does drag?"
Yeah. Exactly.
And
it's tragic, and we talked about it last week, and we'll talk about it next week in our retrospective episode, but it's tragic that's what kind of Torpedo finally was like the final thing to knock the feet out from under him.
And so when we come back to Bolt, this is the second of the 3 Disney productions that John Travolta's been signed on for.
He's in the Disney sphere at this point. Yeah. He's done Wild Hogs, he does this, and he's going to do Old Dogs.
Is Wild Hogs Disney?
It is.
It was Disney.
It's Touchstone Pictures, so it's like they're it's an adult movie label.
Oh, right, because they can't say it's Disney. I hear you.
Yeah, but at the end of the movie, it does say like distributed by Walt Disney Motion Pictures, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they already had his name in the system, and they're looking for people to play this dog. It's the perfect cast.
Yeah.
And then I definitely was sitting in the movie like, all right, that's Miley Cyrus. She's not doing what she needs to be doing. I can't wait for her to sing the end credits song. And what happens when the end credits song comes on? It's a Miley Cyrus song.
It's a Miley Cyrus John Travolta duo.
I was going to say that's the other thing about it too.
It kind of whips.
That's the other thing about it too. It's like you cast 2 musical talents for this as well,
and it's not a musical.
It's not a musical, but there are soundtrack bits with this. Like,
but they don't have them sing until the end credits.
But isn't there a middle road trip montage song
that is not sung by either of them?
No, it's just kind of brought in, but it is a good song. I would also like to just lay something on the table here. I have cried for 1 book and 1 movie in my entire life. And I would not count this movie, but I did get choked up twice watching this movie. Ooh. And I don't know why. I do have to uncover that process.
When we get to those scenes, you got to let us know.
I kind of also did, but for wrong reasons. And we'll talk about it later.
Stuart got all choked up about John Travolta, didn't you?
No.
Oh.
No. It's the ending. I wanted the ending to be different.
You wanted the ending to be different.
But we'll talk.
You didn't want the ending to be
Is there any more context to fill in before we jump into the plot?
No, that's basically the extent of context. Miley Cyrus is in this movie. She was not cast originally.
I was positive Margot Robbie was playing the Black Cat just because I'm so used to hearing her New York accent. And then when it was like, this is not Margot Robbie, I'm like, well, I don't know why I watched it. I don't know what the point was.
But so Miley Cyrus, Hannah Montana is huge at the time this movie comes out.
Yeah.
Disney wants to kind of extend her into their diaspora all over the place.
Yeah.
If Disney could have their way, they would cryogenically freeze Miley Cyrus in like a cryogenic sleep chamber and then just like open her up and it's like, all right, time to voice another role, kiddo.
But Chloe Grace Moretz,
thank God that's not what happened,
as Penny in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, that would have been good.
And she voices the entire movie as Penny.
Oh.
She is replaced with Miley Cyrus late in the game. But she still voices Penny in the opening scene.
In the younger version.
The young Penny at the beginning of this movie, like when she first gets Bolt, is voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz.
Yeah, because there's no way you can say Miley Cyrus doesn't play as 15, much less 10.
Yeah. And that's why I was really surprised when this movie ended. And I saw Chloe Grace Moretz as young Penny. I was like, really? Because I'm like, I feel like she wasn't like big at this time, but she was starting to get some notoriety.
And she would have become big. She was big in like 2012, right? It was
because she's coming into Kick-Ass and Diary of a Wimpy Kid and whatnot in the next year or two. And so I was like, really? She only came in and like did 1 line, and then I read she had done the whole movie. And Miley Cyrus, they had brought Miley Cyrus in late to replace her in all the lines.
And that's both Miley Cyrus is our most bankable like young adult star, and also we need to have a difference in voice between young Penny and older Penny. And
I'm sure it wasn't about that.
Yeah, because I think Chloe Grace Moretz did 2 different voices. She was like 15 at the time, so I'm sure she did like an age of, like she sounds like a young child at the beginning. And then she just sounded
15.
like herself for the rest of the movie.
How old was Miley Cyrus in 2008?
Miley Cyrus.
Because that would have been the end of the Hannah Montana show. Because I was watching that.
Miley Cyrus was 16 in 2008.
Oh, wow. She sounded so much older.
She does sound rather old in this movie.
Oh, wow. So it would have been directly in the Hannah Montana world, because she
Yeah.
started at 15 and ended it, I think, at like 22 or something like that. That show went on for seasons.
Hannah Montana ran on for 2006 to 2011.
Oh, do I get any points for that?
You do.
Thank you.
You get 10 points.
If you ever guys...
I'll add a dinger noise for
Yeah,
that.
if you guys get a Barbie movie podcast, please let me know.
Well, we're gonna have to do...
That's where my information is.
Isn't it Margot Robbie going to be in that Barbie movie?
Yeah.
I don't know about any of the new ones. I am a classicist only.
Oh, like you're talking like OG Barbie movies.
Yeah, I'm talking Princess and the Pauper. I'm talking like Swan Lake.
Barbie
I'll hit
Swan Lake.
Mermaidia if I got to. Do you have sisters, Jeff?
I have an older sister.
There we go. Okay. I was like, I don't feel like this would have been introduced to you at a young age as it was for me. For sure it wasn't for you, right, Stu?
Stuart was big into it. He's lying.
Yeah, maybe if you watched a Barbie movie, you'd have a better outlook on life. Let's watch that next time.
So how's this movie start, Jeff?
Okay. So this movie starts first and foremost with the Walt Disney Animation Studios logo.
Oh, I got totally tricked, by the way, when they put... All right.
Continue, Ange.
When they when we see the opening scene where she's picking out Bolt, and then we transition into what I will just, spoilers will admit is a TV show.
Yeah.
I got kind of tricked because I was watching it and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this, and then they had the Walt Disney Animation like credit part
Yeah.
in it, and I was like, well, hold on a fucking second. Hold on a second. Do I remember this movie differently? And then I was like, no, Ange, remember now.
I do want to quickly say this is only the second movie to have that Steamboat Willie intro. Meet the Robinsons was the first because it was a John Lasseter thing. This is the first one to have it in HD. I guess it looked shitty in Meet the Robinsons.
I'm sure it did. I mean, Meet the Robinsons.
But it's supposed to look shitty. It's like their
No,
early Mickey
it
Mouse
looked
Steamboat.
it looked grainy, I think is the point, because
Like it was
originally
presented in like
paper.
720.
It
something
should.
like that.
I don't know. I feel like it should. Anyway,
Well, you don't want it's flip animation. You don't want flip animation to look pixely. Like then it's
well, yeah.
all right. My point being, we see this beautiful, very warm opening scene, and then I do love. I mean, film school is never going to be worth it, but I do love noticing the color temperature change.
Yeah.
I was like, it's green now. I know what green means.
Yeah. So Bolt's like the puppy in the litter.
Yeah, he's a little puppy. He's the
And-
white one, and the rest are brown dogs.
Yeah.
Is this racism? That's gotta be something.
And that's when Hagrid brings him down, and like the motorcycle, and Dumbledore says like this boy will grow up famous.
Someone just watched Harry
Everyone will
Potter,
know
I
his
can tell.
name. And he's like raising him in this. They were the worst of all Muggles.
I think it was a good idea for them to establish pretty early that it was always Bolt and Penny before the show came along. Because normally I think anybody would expect it to be they were separate and then they were brought on for the show and then they became friends. But it's that like when Bolt says, no, it's real, Penny's real, he has backup memories on that.
Well, the thing that I'm kind of confused about in this movie is that she comes in, she's like, I want that one. And she pulls the little white dog out, Bolt, gives him a hug, and then she immediately just clips a name tag on him that says Bolt.
Well, I think I did notice that, and I was like, man, they're going to have some shit to say about that.
I think, and then it says 5 years later, and the show's been running for 5 seasons, like you said. So I think, I mean, obviously, like, I don't think Disney thought about this, like, it's just a cute opening scene. I think, like, the idea is that she was told by the studio she got the role and she gets to pick the dog she's going to be acting opposite.
Oh.
Because, like, why else would she
that's
already have
interesting.
the name Bolt, like, pre-ready on a name tag?
That does make more sense because I was like, what casting agent is like every young girl with a dog that they're really attached to, bring them in and we're going to gaslight that dog for 5 years. That makes a lot more sense. And that does change the context. But I mean,
Yeah.
of course, she really does care about
Yeah.
it. And we see that in the film.
So, like,
yada,
immediately
yada.
thrust into the
show.
TV show right after.
And that's when we
As are
get
we.
that really cool switch intro then
Yeah.
to the TV show world.
Yeah.
it just goes desaturated.
It goes super saturated. That green is
Yeah.
there. It is bright.
Yeah. But it's like, we'll just describe like the premise of the TV show in this
Yeah.
opening. It's like Penny and Bolt. Bolt in this TV show
Crime-fighting
world.
duo.
Yeah, they're a crime fighting duo. Bolt is the product of a science
I
experiment.
don't know if they're crime fighting so much as her dad is a scientist. He made Bolt to protect her. He's been kidnapped by. He gets kidnapped by this like
Dr. Green-Eyed Man.
the
Dr.
green-eyed
Calico.
man, Dr.
Calico.
Calico,
Voiced by Malcolm McDowell, which just rules.
Classic.
That does rule.
Yeah, I don't know if there's so much a crime fighting duo. I did kind of enjoy watching all these big stunts because. Do you guys talk about where you work?
Oh yeah, we talk about
Yeah, so
in loose terms.
Yeah, I work on a network show with these two, and we have done some big stunts recently, and I saw all of the work that went into one small non-fire car stunt and all the driving stuff. And so watching that all the first time before they kind of like show that there's film stuff involved, and it's like we're dropping motorcycles and there's all this stuff running around and there's fires and we're flipping cars over an actress, and I'm like, all right, we get it, animation's much safer. Like that was crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, it was especially crazy to then pitch that like we do it all in one take, we don't miss our marks, we don't like
It's a live show,
it is a
essentially.
live show, and I'm like, live where? On what highway?
I just want to talk about like the sets they have to build.
Yes.
Like these are all in
and
a
they built them. That's what they told us at the end, because I was like, all right, they film it on the highway and then everybody kind of like packs up and they've got some good PAs doing lockups, but then they like raise the background and I'm
Yeah.
like, does this dog not have depth perception? Jesus
This all
Christ.
happens in a sound stage.
Yeah, there's some serious what's it called? When you like suspending your disbelief in this movie.
Well, I
because
mean,
there's no way
especially
they're
for
doing what
us.
they like for us. There's
Yeah.
no way that it's an animated movie about a talking dog.
It is an animated movie about a talking dog.
There's no way that like this dog would not see the cameras in the positions that they put them in this movie. So you gotta just kind of accept like it's an animated movie about a talking dog.
I will also say, as some, like when I got into the film industry and I started talking to my family, and film is usually a family business, and it wasn't for me. I'm the only one in my family who does it. This is how people think it works. Like my grandparents, when we did our car stunt for our show, was like, whose car was that? That's someone's car. You can't do that. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
We bought it from the thing.
Bought it from a shop to do this. Or it's like my other grandmother got very upset with me when we were watching a show about a show I worked on about a kid not being treated well, and she was like, I'm Annie at home. She's like, Annie, how could you do that to that kid? I'm like, I cannot tell you how far removed I am from what happens to this kid. I think people think it looks like this, and I wouldn't blame them. We do a lot of work to make it look like it is effortless or in one take.
Exactly. And I think a lot about the story from the production of It, where like Bill Skarsgård said he like the first time he emerged from the refrigerator to scare one of the kids, it was the first time the kid had seen him, and the kid's like screaming and crying like, and he's like coming at the kid, and then director's like, cut, and the kid like immediately just snapped back to it, got him like, great job, man, you're a great actor, I love your Pennywise, and like gave him a fist bump and walked away. And Bill Skarsgård's like, I was shook by that encounter more than the kid was shook by me, because he's like, that kid was locked in. I thought I was scaring him, and he got me. He's like, great job, man.
Favorite bit about that, so we're going to take a segue to the It cast now, is that Bill Hader.
The It cast.
Bill Hader's like scary, like fear face. He had to like kind of act differently for it, because Bill Hader, when he gets this like afraid, he just sort of awkwardly laughs. And there are bits in It where you can see him kind of do it a little bit, where he just kind of does the and then like runs away. It's weird, but
A true comedian.
yeah. But so this opening,
Yes.
Do you guys walk through the entire plot of the movie? Because what I came in to talk about were themes. I've got themes in my pocket.
We walk through the plot roughly so we can talk about the themes and whatnot. The idea is like for
we have
audience
checkpoints.
for our audience members who don't watch the movies with us, we gotta like give them a basic skeleton of the plot so they can follow
My
along
bad.
with us.
I just assume everybody's seen Bolt. That's my bad. So the dog is a movie star, and he is completely method acting.
Yes.
Which I love. Love that for him.
He's convinced.
But it's getting to his nerves.
Because now he's genuinely convinced he exists in this world where everyone's trying to kill his owner, his person.
And I'm going to say it, a bit inhumane.
Yeah, a bit inhumane.
I think what I want to talk about was like, this movie has a lot to say about animal cruelty and the way animals are treated in many different scenarios, but it never touches on it. Like, it kind of is like,
Yeah.
also, I don't know if this is okay. Anyway, back to the dog. And
Which
I'm like,
is
whoa.
why you talked about the Vegas dog fighting scene being cut. Because I read the IMDb trivia piece that talked about what that scene was. I don't know if you guys did.
Well, you
but-
can watch it on Disney Plus. They have the original
storyboard?
storyboards with sound.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Someone's not doing their research.
I would've
Someone's not
watched
clicking
it.
on the extras
well,
tab.
just by reading it, like that would have been, I mean, it is dark, but like, anyway, for the audience, I mean, this is jumping ahead, but like as Bolt's trying to find Penny, he like goes under like an overpass in Vegas, and he comes across these two big dogs, and they get into a dog fight, and the dogs like just like beat up Bolt and rip him to shreds, basically. And it's sort of like the Buzz Lightyear.
Lily, I will go sailing.
Literally, right on cue. Right as I was about to say the Buzz Lightyear arm fall off bit. Like that was what it was supposed to be for Bolt.
That scene, by the way, in Toy Story.
Instead of
I will fly if I wanted to.
Instead of what?
Like a bird in the sky.
Thank you, Jeff.
I believe
Thank
I
you,
can
Jeff.
fly.
Jeff, thank you.
I can
All right,
fly.
I'm just gonna dial. Okay.
That scene did change my life, by the way.
Instead of
good scene.
What did they do for this movie? Instead, it's Bolt trying to bash out of an animal control cage.
Yeah.
And the hamster rhino flipping the switch.
Yeah.
Like that's the dawn moment. That's the I'm really not a superhero moment.
He wasn't supposed to have his dawn moment until Vegas? Because also, I mean, again, I'm not helping anybody explain this plot well, but he gets shipped off to New York on accident, and he's trying to find Penny. He has to go all the way from the East Coast to the West Coast. And I have recently...
Good road trip movie for Jeff.
I've done a cross-country road trip. I've done that road trip from East to West, from D.C. to L.A., like in the last month. And so that was very fun how they kind of showed the absolute barren landscape that is the center of the U.S. But I mean, to figure out, to go all the way from New York to Vegas believing something, that is a long time to believe that you are still a superhero. I'm glad that he figures it out in Ohio, I think is the pitch.
It is pretty early on. Yeah. I mean, I think just in terms of structure, I think it would make a little bit more sense if it happened later, just because like he goes through like this entire road trip thinking that like, because there's all these like fake incidences that make him believe that my powers are real. Like there's a styrofoam bit, but there's also like, you know, him jumping from one thing to another and miraculously landing.
This movie does do my least favorite road trip thing though,
which is
when you set up, they have to go from New York to LA. And they get to Ohio, and then it's a montage for the rest of the country. Yeah. It's like, bow, bow, bow. It just like shows them crossing the map, and I'm like, it's a road trip movie. You got to do the whole road trip. You can't montage half the country.
Well, they cut. I can't imagine what they cut that was probably supposed to be in there.
They cut Vegas, Missouri.
I will say, and
they cut Nebraska. Oh, Nebraska.
Not Nebraska.
Fuck Nebraska. It's not a real state. It doesn't exist.
Well, Indiana's not a real state. I will agree that the road trip, we lose a lot of it, but the idea of them being in one of those mobile houses, or the houses that you ship and then plant, and him learning how to be a dog, I think is probably one of the more genius parts of the movie. Yeah. That he can stick his head out the window and learn how to drink of a toilet in one place and still be on the road.
It's a very smart conceit.
Oh, it's incredible. I would not be surprised if that idea is what birthed the whole movie.
Yeah. So to quickly catch the audience up, so the TV episode, like a whole action bit.
We don't have to.
Dr. Calico.
I do want to talk about one part of that.
Okay.
Stuart, did you notice who was voicing the thug?
No.
When like Bolt's like, you know, they're following like the tough guy, and then he like chase them down. They like suspend him off a bridge later in the movie.
I'll never talk. He's in Bolivia. He's in Bolivia.
Stuart, did you happen to notice who voiced this man?
No.
This thug. His name. He's just called Thug in the credits. His voice.
First name.
By the Theodore Hugg. T Hugg Thug.
Who voices Theodore Hugg?
Theodore Hugg is voiced by the one and only, the Macho Man, Randy Savage, Bonesaw.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
So then
I had to say
they go through the action bit, and
what are you doing up there?
We're never gonna finish on time. So we go through the whole episode of Penny and Bolt getting through all this like henchmen and bad guys. We got basically a list of all those powers. Like Bolt has the
laser
eyes.
He has a karate chop.
He has a super bark. Zoom.
Speed.
Like
he can't fly, which we learned later.
He can't fly,
but he can do really long jumps. He did jump over a helicopter, which I would love to know how they faked that. Like, how did they make that dog able to do that in the studio system, but not in the real world?
I bet you the propellers weren't even moving. And that's probably like if they were trying to, again, it's a movie about a talking dog.
Well, I wonder if it was an updraft.
I think we're kind of seeing the after post had already been done with a lot of CG.
Yeah, they're doing post while they're
There's definitely a lot of CG dog in the
we love
the
CG
creation
dog.
of this movie.
It's all about the CG dog.
But yeah, so they're going through all of it, and then he does a super bark, and they get, Dr. Calico escapes, and then cut, and then the whole mirage is revealed.
Yeah, they pull it back up, and they're like,
and old Penny says like, "Good job, Bolt, good job," and then he's like, Bolt's like, freaking out basically, which is why it's like pretty much inhumane.
Real quick, Tio, they reveal that it's a set. They don't reveal it very slowly, but there is one hint where she steps over a body and it's still breathing, but it's pretending to be dead.
Yeah,
and I remember as a kid
that.
being like, "Oh my god!" and then now as an adult being like, "That's a really cool shot."
yeah, that's a really cool way of hiding that.
And it's in a really cool way of kind of prepping. I don't know if you would do it to like as a an in for the adults to be like, here's something fun that only you would notice, or as for the kids to be like, oh, he didn't do it, and then for the magic to be lost. I don't know what their point was for that. Who in the audience that was for, but it was for me. I loved it.
I think it's a fun little Easter egg. It also works to show the guy is not dead, to prevent this movie from having a dead body on screen.
That's true.
Oh, of course.
They really did say no dead bodies.
But so then after he does a super bark and blows all the tanks, the helicopters, the men away, and then they're like, all right, good job, Bolt. And Penny picks up Bolt and they walk him to his trailer, door closes, and then, all right, cut. And then everything goes away. The backdrop flies up.
There's the one really tough set deck guy, and he picks up a whole car.
It's probably made of foam or some shit like
we
that.
Love a foam car.
I don't know. And the whole reveals the set, and then it cuts to this editing room, which is more like a live TV newsroom in terms of how it's run and operated.
Well,
with
we also see he's like, all right, widen out on 3, go to 4.
Yeah.
It's almost unlike news.
It's more like news, and so they're doing all this stuff, and they're looking through, and then they get to the super bark moment, and what's in the frame?
The boom.
The boom mic. Now,
I'm gonna just say they're all mad about the boom being in the shot, because the dog could have seen it. And I just say point 2 things. Number 1, you tell me the dog doesn't see the camera in front of him. Number 2, the boom's in the upper right corner. You could easily crop it out.
Yeah, you can crop it out, paint it out.
You could paint that shit.
That's the whole point, is where it's like, well, it's also like evidence to your boss that you're not paying enough attention to keep the boom out of the way. And it's also, I think the cameras are probably very small and planted on stuff built into the set. And then that leads into the exec being like, this doesn't make any sense to me. This is easy to solve. And then they have this whole spiel, and she comes right back at him with like, oh, here's something real for you. Fuck you.
Yeah, ratings.
Yeah, 18 to 35-year-olds are unhappy. And I was sitting there at 21 like, I'm kind of happy though.
I'm good time.
I'm having a great time.
Yep.
But then they talk about the boom mic, and you're talking about the executive producer, like, why is this such a big deal? Did someone mess with me? And that's when the director goes on this long spiel about, it's like, because the dog believes it's true.
That's very director too, to be like, oh, you don't understand.
You don't understand.
This dog is doing Stanislavski.
Mindy from the network. So
the director in this being voiced by James Lipton, who was the host of Inside the Actors Studio for 20 years or something like that. Really respected name, and this is one of the only 3 movies he was ever in.
So then, director goes through the whole spiel about how Bolt believes it's all real, and because he believes it's all real, the audience believes it's real. And then the exec, as you pointed out, Ange, it's like, okay, that's all nice and fun, but the show sucks. And
that's true. And when they do introduce a new Bolt when they can't find the old Bolt, who is not able to act properly.
It's a more accurate film dog.
Yeah.
A dog that doesn't do what you want it to do on the first take, which lots of experience with. So basically then after that whole spiel's done, then Penny's with Bolt in the trailer, and Bolt's still activated, you might say. Again, more points to my earlier comment about how this whole thing is, in my opinion, inhumane. How this dog is just wired all the time, and always thinks that its owner is in danger all the time.
So Penny goes off to do press with her agent.
And we get cats.
Yeah, 2 cats show up and start harassing Bolt. We really don't have to go too much into this.
No, we don't. The cats just like to mess with Bolt and pretend, and because they know, they're in on the joke that Bolt thinks it's all real.
In short, if we're going to talk about the plot, he escapes the trailer because there is a episode where it's like a cliffhanger. And so he can't see Penny.
This is the unhappy part.
Yeah, he gets too wired. He escapes the trailer. He gets knocked out and stuck in a box that gets shipped to New York.
Yeah.
He should have died. You didn't hear anything from me, because if he was in the belly of a plane, there's no air. But he breaks out. He's in New York. He's never been here before.
What if like this movie like
ended right there? It was like he died.
He goes in a box to New York. You just see like some random UPS employee like, oh, I'm gonna check out this box. It doesn't smell so good. And he opens it up, and
roll.
And there's like the dead body of the dog in there, and then you just start hearing the John Travolta Miley Cyrus. I could have been. Like, oh God.
I mean, we're gonna talk about the ending.
That's one way to make the movie short.
But
he gets stuck in New York, and he's looking for a cat to tell him, and that's when we meet our secondary character, who is a declawed alley cat.
Well, we missed the pigeon section.
We gotta talk about the pigeons.
We'll talk about the pigeons. My point, I want to talk about animal cruelty, and the point is that she's been declawed and then abandoned, and I had a alley cat who had been abandoned and declawed, who we brought in my childhood before I saw this movie. Mm-hmm. So that hits particularly for me because I know how scary that is. You can't hunt. My cat was eating sand when we found her to keep her belly full.
Damn.
That's awful.
It's interesting. They touch on 3 different like huge problems in animal cruelty, and then they like in shelters only cute things get adopted and things that are not deemed pretty enough are left to die. And we have all of that out there, and it's just like, we're only going to touch on that for a second. Let's roll up to Hollywood.
Again, it's the Truman Show Toy Story thing, where it's like that cat is Jessie.
Yeah, because she was abandoned.
Yeah.
I have not seen the Truman Show, so I...
Well, that's the Toy Story.
Jessie. Yeah.
Jessie the doll.
This movie doesn't go deep enough into Mittens.
No, I would like a whole show about just Mittens.
Because like the Jessie scene in Toy Story 2 is a wholly effective short film of itself.
Yeah.
Like just Jessie's arc is kind of just all done over that one song by Sarah McLachlan, and it's extremely effective. It's probably maybe the best scene in the movie.
Yeah.
And Mittens needed something like that because she only gets the one scene where she's like, I was abandoned because I wasn't pretty, and then she's like, okay, I'm going to help Bolt now because it's Bolt's story.
Well, she gets that scene in Vegas where it's like, I've built a world for us, and he's like, I have to get back to her, and she's like, you're going to abandon something good for something that is not real.
Yeah.
And this brings up something very specific for me.
Bolt's ready to take the blue pill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but then she has a change of heart and teaches him how to be a real dog.
Okay. I want to talk.
No, this is after.
That's what I'm saying. It's like that. Well, that's after?
Yeah, in Vegas when she's built the box homes, and she's like, we can stay here in Vegas where there's enough food for all of us, and he's like, we are so close to my goal, and she's like, you're being an idiot. Yeah. But you go when your friend needs you, according to Rhino the hamster.
All right, I want to talk about these pigeons.
Okay.
Because this is important to me.
Well, I would love...
This is the most important part of this movie.
I want to talk about how they have
45 minutes right now.
They have the exact same animation for all pigeon groups in...
It's great. But
like
they're
LA, Vegas, and New York. It's like 3 pigeons and one of them's googly-eyed.
The pigeons are great because it's the same pigeon animation for everyone, and they have the same archetypes, but they are the most stereotypical version of culture in each of those cities.
I do love
in
them.
LA, they're all like pitch bros. Like, I got an idea for your TV show, dude. You know, I'm from this.
I'd love to pitch you on Aliens.
I'm from like the San Fernando Valley, dude, and I just want to let you know, like,
I'm a big fan. They have a writer's assistant. It's like, I told you to wait on the wire. Whole wheat is not whole grain.
Yes, it's great.
I've been there.
But when we're in New York, we meet my favorite character in this movie, Vinny.
Well, what is it? Vinny, Bobby, and Donnie.
Vinny, Bobby.
I remember it because I was like, we're going to talk about that.
It's these 3 pigeons, and they show up, and they're just all... The lead one, Vinny's just like, hey, how you doing, man? What's going on?
Well, you got turn and pull.
You got turn and pull, man. You got turn and pull. He's got, like, a kind of late-stage De Niro thing going on. He's so good.
I would love to really quickly touch on... There's a big thing about East Coast versus West Coast, where East Coast is kind but not nice, and West Coast is nice but not kind. Where on the East Coast, they helped him get his head out of the fence for nothing in return, but they're like... I think I've seen you. I don't know for a fact, though. You're kind of ugly. Whereas in the West Coast, it's like, I'm a huge fan. I would really like to pitch you on this TV show, and then I'll help you.
Yeah.
Because there's something in it for me, which I thought, I mean, it's big in both cultures, so it's fun to see it very reduced down in pigeon style.
And, like, I can just see these 3 pigeons, like, in real life. I can see, like, the people.
I've met them.
I've met them.
They're out there. And when I chase a pigeon in Chicago, it looks at me and it's like, you don't even care about the cubs.
It's like, hey, I'm walking here. You're right.
Yeah, with the Chicago version where it's like, oh, how do you do?
But this fucking pigeon, Vinny, is just like, hey, I know I've seen this dog somewhere. I've seen this dog. Who is this guy?
And as that's happening, like, giant, enormous public transportation city buses are passing by with the whole
Which is good
side
to
of
know.
it.
It's good to know that the show is like a huge show. Because it would be
Yeah.
one thing if it was like, there's a ton of shows in LA and it's not that big of a deal. It's like, we got New York billboards, which
Yeah.
is a big deal. It's one thing to have a billboard in LA. Everybody's got a billboard in
Vinny.
LA.
It's Vinny. How are you doing, huh?
Do you want to just do the rest of this
Fuck
in
it.
New York accents? Because
Yeah.
I'll slip.
So
Don't.
basically, this is the inception of Gotti.
Okay, so
what I
then
would-
let me tell you. This
What I would've
pigeon
liked-
comes in, he
the only
flutters.
thing-
He's like,
the only
let me
thing
tell
I'm
you something.
missing-
New York's the
only
greatest
thing-
fucking city in the world.
thing
My
I'm
city.
missing, the only thing I'm missing is a Staten Island pigeon, because a New York pigeon and a Staten Island pigeon are very different.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to see like a Staten Island like turkey.
Yeah.
You know, turkeys run wild on Staten Island, just being like, I don't fucking care where you're from. I don't know who the goddamn hell you are. Get off of my street. Where is Pastosas, right? Like,
So then they're talking to Bolt, and Bolt's like, I need a cat. I need a cat to tell me where Dr. Calico is to
Okay,
find
we
my
got
penny.
an idea for you. We know what's
we
going on.
have our
right?
mob boss leader who's been threatening us for years.
Yeah, this cat's running a racket. It's so good.
Which
You
I mean,
have to run a
it's a
racket. That's the
protection
whole
racket.
point. Yeah.
and like I think I just wanted to go back real quick just to touch on because like, we mentioned it, but very briefly. But for folks who haven't seen it, like again, like that episode that Bolt's like so traumatized on is because like it ends in the cliffhanger of Penny getting kidnapped, and as soon as they cut, like an animal trainer, not Penny, takes Bolt away into a kennel. And Penny's like, I need to make sure he knows I'm okay. It's like, no. Like, we need to make sure he believes you're taken. So that's just something to like make
Bolt's
sure
in the
that
hunt
was very
for Penny.
clear. Yeah, Bolt's on the hunt for
but
Penny.
these pigeons, these gabagools,
They find him his cat,
they bring him to their cat. They bring him to a cat named Mittens,
Mittens.
voiced by Susie Essman from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Oh, what do you know?
She's a big New York-based comedian, which I think comes out in her voice.
Well, it makes sense. Like, I would, if the cat was a boy, I would have cast Jerry Seinfeld.
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm amazed they didn't get Jerry Seinfeld.
What's the deal with dogs, huh?
You know what the deal with dogs is? We want to be you, which I thought was a really interesting little thing, especially on like if we talk about the mistreatment of black cats specifically, where it was like cats hate dogs because cats want to be dogs because they have such a good life.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh,
I want
it's
to
true.
quickly hold the phone for a second. You mentioned that you thought this cat was voiced by Margot Robbie, just like instinctually because
Yeah.
of her Brooklyn accent.
Just because of like what I've been seeing and where I am.
because the accent she does for Harley Quinn specifically.
Oh yeah.
Susie Essman voiced Harley Quinn's grandmother in the current Harley Quinn TV show
Damn.
named Grandma Quinzel.
That's a good poll.
I just wanted to
good
quickly
poll.
say that
Thank you so
before we
much.
get back to this movie.
So this dog finds Mittens and like pins Mittens down. It's like, tell me where like Dr. Calico is, and like ties Mittens up with like his collar that he has
Yeah.
on, and is basically keeping her prisoner.
Yeah.
If we want to talk about inhumane
Disney
cruelty.
animation, I mean animation in general, it's very easy to do this, but they're always really good about like subtly building elements into the story and the world that work for what they're telling. Like
Oh, when he gets the
he
leash
randomly
clipped
comes
on.
across like a dog walker who puts a leash on him,
Yeah.
which just seems like a moment of him not understanding. But structurally and story wise, it plays into later he has a way of tying Mittens to himself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of a good little detail that serves a lot of different masters.
It's like the little handcuff, toss the key trope thing.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, then that's when
If we're gonna talk about animal cruelty, when they get locked in a moving truck when they're trying to get across the country, it's their first mode of transportation, and Mittens pulls out a baseball bat, ready to bash his head in to knock him out to untie herself, and only at the last second do they like escape.
Yeah.
She was gonna kill that man.
She's gonna kill Bolt, but then she's
A
still be
true
tied to
New
him.
Yorker.
And another quick thing to point out, it's like when Bolt is in New York and he's trying to use his powers, particularly when he gets his head stuck in like a little railing
Yeah.
and he can't bend the bars. The first thought that he has is like he was covered in all this styrofoam
Yeah.
puff pieces, and those are like kryptonite to his power that he thinks.
Yeah.
So he still buys it that he has powers, but it's being hindered right now
Yeah.
by the
Styrofoam.
styrofoam kryptonite thing. So that's when Mittens finds Bolt a map. It's like a IHOP.
Waffle House map.
It's like a Waffle House
top
map.
secret map of the world, mind you.
Yeah, the world, which is the United States of America, which is the world. Fuck the rest of the world. Anyway,
Separated by waffles. America.
America.
Yeah, we get from the green lady to the waffle with the sunglasses, which is exactly how I did my road trip.
I kind of want to do like as a bit, just like do a road trip based on like one of those like Waffle House maps or something.
Oh my god!
Or like
Well,
the Denny's location map.
Well, it stops after a certain point, right? Because they don't have Waffle House in like the West Coast, don't they?
Isn't Waffle House
It's not really a Waffle House. It's a national chain, and they keep using the map the whole way. Because in Vegas, we're one waffle away from penny. We're using it as a system of measurement.
Yeah.
The furthest you can get with Waffle House is Arizona.
Yeah, I didn't think they were on the West Coast.
God
I'm
damn it!
looking at a map of Waffle
It was
Houses
like-
in the U.S.
I only know this because they're like long time ago. There's like a Twitter thread or something that said like, "Haha, you guys don't. East Coast doesn't have In-N-Out." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you guys don't have Waffle House." So
All right, good news. We can do this road trip off Denny's.
Oh, you definitely can. Jesus.
wait, how many Denny's are in Montana?
3.
More.
Wow, Montana.
That's how many people are in Montana.
I think Denny's just has a bit where they want one in every state. Because
I think they do have
Let
one
me
in
see if
every
there's
state.
any states that are not. I mean, besides Hawaii and Alaska.
No, there's a Denny's in Hawaii.
Is there? All right, I would like.
They banned, I know, a lot of those chains. They're pretty limited on what can make it over there. I don't think there's any McDonald's, but I'm almost positive I saw a Denny's when I was in Hawaii.
Well, I just think it's great that we have all these restaurants because the one restaurant I think we could do a lot less of is fucking White Castle.
Ooh, Stuart, should we do a White Castle road trip?
No, we should not. Or we do the White Castle road trip, but it's an effort to burn all the White Castles in America down to the ground.
Andrew's learning some new things about you right now.
I wish White Castle would just get Joffrey Baratheoned, just poisoned and died.
if I was gonna pick what I thought your favorite like fast food restaurant would be, White Castle would not be off the list. It's you're an anti White Castle person.
I am
Stuart, you need to move to the south. There's like only one White Castle in the south.
yeah, go to Atlanta.
Where is it? Where is it
It's
in
in
the south?
Florida.
Okay, well, we're gonna go to Florida, and I'm going to save the South
is-
from White Castle.
See, it's a White Castle versus Crystal. The divide.
Oh, this makes sense. We're looking at a map right now. 'Cause you're...
Okay, enough about White Castle. No Waffle House.
Enough about White
I started this. This is my fault.
Okay.
Is there anything you wanted to talk about specifically with the pigeons? Because I'm always
We're done
for
with the
a
pigeons.
comedic.
We are done with the
I
pigeons.
just wanted to talk about how they're very funny
We are
in New
done
York.
with the
really
pigeons.
quick. I would like to
me tell you
cover
something.
which of us is which on the pigeons because I
Okay.
definitely think I'm the secondary. I might be the writer's assistant.
I
with the
claim
googly
Vinny.
eyes. You claim Vinny?
I claim Vinny.
I mean, you can claim whatever you want. I mean,
Let me tell you something,
Great. So then they get into a moving van,
which makes Stuart the third one.
and
yeah, he's the googly eyed.
we get
bitch.
another bit where Bolt tries to melt the lock, but his powers aren't working again. So then they hide underneath the couch, a similar fashion in how Penny and Bolt hid under a truck going
Yeah.
into Calico's lair,
Which they use again
which
when
they use again with Mittens and Rhino
At the end.
at
to
the
follow
end.
them to the hospital.
So yeah, they're in the moving van, and yes, we get that bit with Mittens trying to kill Bolt but can't, and then they get out of the moving van.
They fall out.
They fall out
because there's a styrofoam there.
and he freaks out, and
And so she discovers this and she starts threatening him with the styrofoam, but he kicks it out of her hand. Is like, "You need to show me where we're going." And then his stomach rumbles.
and he's like, "What is this?" Okay, so I get the idea that this dog's been brainwashed to think that, like, he's a super powered dog. You can't brainwash hunger.
Well,
out of
no. He's
somebody.
never been hungry. He eats.
He's
right?
always
Like,
had food.
He's never had hunger pains. I think there's like a difference between being hungry and having like your stomach rumble, and
Yeah.
also if you're eating on a schedule, which I'm sure he is. Like my dogs at home don't know what hunger is. They also don't know what injuries are because that doesn't happen to them.
And like,
I just think it's like
on a day where I'm at home alone, I'm never hungry. Because like, I just like, all right, it is lunchtime. It is dinner time.
Not me. I forget to eat. But in theory, this dog has, especially for trained dogs and set dogs, they eat on such a rigid schedule and they're eating that straight kibble. Like he probably hadn't had French fries. He hadn't had hot dogs and like, what is it, the cheese dumplings that the old lady's
Yeah.
making or whatever?
yeah. But then that's when we get the RV part.
Yeah, they come to an RV park.
Yeah.
And she's like, "I'll tell you how to get food."
Teaches him how to do the dog face.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought that was a very effective scene.
It's a good bit.
Because like the whole like, all right, tilt your head, put your left ear, nope, the other ear, okay, and then ever so slightly look up, bingo. And it's
Well,
like,
it's also very funny when she's like, "Oh, you're such a good actor." It's
Yeah.
like, this will come in handy later. That's a surprise tool that will help us later.
yeah,
While they're getting the food, we cut back to Penny briefly,
yeah.
where they swap. They give a new Bolt, and she figures out immediately that it's just a replacement dog.
I actually thought that scene with the executive was very cute because I think they really set the executive up to be an awful woman.
Yeah.
And then when she says, the last thing I want to do is ask a young girl to make a grown-up decision, but I don't have another choice. We have to keep filming.
There's a
People are
little
gonna lose their jobs.
Yeah,
that was a really good bit.
Yeah,
the
she's
whole,
like, good people with families will lose their jobs.
And like we as film industry workers know kind of that whole thing. Because if our jobs depended on a dog,
Yeah.
and it's like, hey, we don't have the dog, so we're not going to film until we find it. Like, that makes sense to me.
I can see that happening to us very clearly.
Yeah.
So yeah, get a fucking new dog. That's
Sorry.
That's like what I would say too. So it makes sense. So
they're going through all these RVs and getting food, eating like kings.
Yeah.
Mittens points out how she's never had like a protruded belly before. This is the first time.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't get enough to eat in her racket in New York. Like the pigeons are bringing like little scraps.
And Bolt's still like thinking like, okay, now we got to get to the next place and like find Penny. It's like, what are you talking about? We're in like a perfect spot.
There is a good bit where they're going through all the RVs and it's all Bolt and they're throwing food at him. And then Mittens tries one RV and the guy throws like
Stupid cat.
he throws a whole
cast
pan at her.
iron skillet. That's that is an expensive piece of machinery, and they are trying to kill
And
her.
he is wasting it and throwing it into the dirt. But they before they leave, they go to one more RV with this old woman who's like, "Let me get you my granny's favorite dumplings."
And that's where we meet Rhino.
Rhino, the best character in this movie.
No,
Vinny's the best character.
Negative.
In this movie.
Rhino does not come close.
I think Rhino is
he's
the best character
worst.
for you.
He is the worst part
No,
of the movie.
Vinny's actually the best character.
Rhino
in this
is
movie.
basically Jeff. Yeah. I mean, Jeff, you are Rhino.
Thank you.
I just like everything about Rhino. I'm like, this is Jeff.
Yeah.
100%.
But they meet Rhino, who's a super fan of Bolt.
It's a hamster in a hamster ball.
He just watches TV.
And I don't think the hamster doesn't know that it's TV. He thinks it's real.
Yeah,
just like
he
Bolt
calls it the
thinks
magic
it's real.
box.
Calls it the magic box.
So he looks at the window and he sees Bolt, and so he escapes the RV. And it's like, I'm coming with you. I'm such a huge fan.
This is why he's Rhino. So, yeah.
Me, if I saw Harrison
And
Ford
Rhino-
walking down
Yeah.
the street.
It's
I'm
like,
coming with you.
you know, if
He
this,
would get away from me.
This is another reason why I think it might be plausible that the dog maintains his illusion that he's a superpowered dog until Vegas. Because if it was just Bolts and Mittens, then the only voice in Bolt's head is the voice of reason, which is Mittens. But instead, now he's given a second voice, which is the voice of fantasy.
He gets the angel and the devil.
He gets the angel and the devil on his shoulders, and which that to me, it's like I would buy it if he believed it for so long, because you have this other voice rationalizing why his regular dog actions are creating these superhuman-like results. So, like, i.e., like he barks and something happens.
Yeah.
That wasn't in result of his barking, but you know, you have Rhino there to like rationalize it that way.
Yeah.
So I thought that he served that point very well. So, they try to jump on a train then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
It goes horribly.
yeah, it goes horribly. Bolt gets stuck on the ladder. Mittens is trying to save him. Rhino thinks she's trying to kill him. A whole action scene ensues. They all fall off the train.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
Yeah, the hamster survives somehow.
This hamster goes through a lot.
There's one part in this movie where the hamster rolls literal miles.
Oh yeah, it does with the animal control bit.
Yeah. This hamster travels miles in this ball.
This hamster is superhuman.
This
Yes.
hamster is the dog from Eyes of an Angel
Yeah.
that runs across the country.
You know, this kind of is Eyes of an Angel. We covered a movie called Eyes of an Angel a while ago. It was only available on VHS. The VHS is sitting right next to you.
I'm really seeing a blue steel smolder from our man.
That is the only way we were able to watch this movie, was to buy that. It's not available online in any capacity.
Why not?
I have no idea.
A lot of his movies in that era don't exist.
Yes. But so like
Name one movie in the 80s John
the
Travolta
plot
did.
is like he's involved in
I
like
can't name any movie John Travolta did.
he's involved in like what, a dogfighting racket at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And he has to flee to Los Angeles, but he treats this one dog kindly. And he goes from Chicago to LA. And this dog is like, this guy was kind to me. And like it just starts running across like the country.
Terminator style.
And like this like for like a 45-minute segment of this movie, we're just following John Travolta and his daughter like struggling in LA, and every 10 minutes or so it cuts back to like an abandoned highway and you see a dog like run across the frame, and then we cut back to them.
That's a smart way to use a dog in a
And then
whole
at the end of the movie, the dog comes in and saves them. Like, get away from my wife.
You switch the samples. Yeah.
Oh, the get away from my wife bit.
Didn't kill my wife.
Shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's when Animal Control shows up.
Yes.
And this movie really starts picking up pace at this point.
Yes. Because they're only in like Pennsylvania at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
no, we're in Ohio. It says
Okay.
Ohio clearly.
Okay,
Yeah,
does
yeah,
it?
yeah.
Okay.
Animal Control, which again, Animal Control people get portrayed as the villains. They're just doing their jobs, people.
I don't know if the movie said so much that they're the villain as it is
They
that
blow up their
people's-
floor station. There's a massive explosion.
Yeah, and it's like a bummer. I think they say it's a bummer. That guy gets pepper sprayed.
Oh,
It's
God.
obviously pretty comedic. I think they're more making fun of people from Ohio.
Well, it's like Homeward Bound. It's like the Animal Control people are actually very nice people in Homeward Bound.
Yeah.
Like when they find the missing dogs and they want to get the dogs and the cat reunited with the family, but the dogs think the Animal Control people are the bad guys. And that's
Yeah.
what these folks think of. It's like no animal says like, "Oh, Animal Control, I'm saved." It's always like, "Oh, Animal Control, we got to get
Yeah.
away."
Well, I think if somebody was coming
They're
to
easy
lock
bad
you up
guys.
in a kennel to sell you to someone, I don't know if you'd be so stoked either. Even if it was for your own protection.
I don't know, maybe.
Stuart's not going to comment on that.
I'm not gonna comment on it.
Okay. So, Animal...
Just keep talking about the movie.
Okay, so...
Just keep going. Just keep going. Okay.
So...
I'm messing. I have a water park bracelet that I'm messing with because
Okay.
I need something to do with my hands.
Okay. So, they're at Animal Control. Rhino rescues them.
Yes.
He gets Bolt out first.
And this is the bit where Bolt tries to break out of the dog
Yeah,
cage
because he's in the
on
kennel
truck.
at the gas station.
And
Rhino like follows the car for miles and shows up at this gas station and is like, "Time to shine!" And he like pops out of his little ball and like clutters up and like opens the gate right as Bolt runs at it. Mm-hmm. And so Bolt thinks his superpowers have kicked back and he escaped. But then Rhino's like, "I opened the door for you." And
He's
Bolt's
like,
like, "Oh."
We get a very touching speech from Rhino of like, it doesn't matter, like your powers are real because you're you, and we're gonna get this done. And
Yeah.
it is interesting that it's like, yeah, I may not have a super bark, but I still have my training
Yeah.
of like I know how to infiltrate this facility.
and I'm gonna save this for later. This carries over into a bit in terms of how I think the movie should have ended, but we'll get to it later.
I feel like you're gonna want him to die in the fire with Penny.
Yeah, I feel like the
feel like Stuart's
movie
gonna have
ended
some miserable
perfectly.
ass
I
ending.
just wish there was more stuff where it was happy.
Okay.
No, let's
No, we'll
touch on
get
it.
to it when we get
We'll
to
I
get
it.
want to
to
touch
it.
on it right now.
No, we'll get to it. Okay, so
So they go in and they rescue Mittens.
Yep.
And then hijinks ensue, and the poor animal control person's car explodes.
as a result of his super bark.
Yes. Because like he happens to bark right around the same time as like how does it catch on fire again? I can't remember.
He barks. Somebody.
Or an electrical wire falls or
Electrical
something.
wire things, and like a canister falls. A canister like pops open the
Yeah,
lid
it's a
and like
helium canister that
yeah.
flies, hits the big
sign. He
Sign
falls
on the
over
truck
and
completely.
blows.
Okay.
Yeah, blows up.
Big massive explosion.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Uncle Bob.
Thank you. So anyway, then they escape, and then that's when they get on a house.
Yeah, that's when-
trailer.
Yeah.
And Bolt's very dejected at this point. Like he's kind of like, I'm not a super.
He realizes
If I'm not a super dog, what am I?
Yeah.
And Mitten says, "You're a dog. Let me show you how to be a dog." And they walk through how to be a dog in this house.
And it's a really smart conceit that you pointed out, Ange, where like they can still be making travel distance in this home that's being pulled, while also like hit all these story beats.
All right. Can I ask you guys for a favor?
Yeah.
When we get to the fire scene, remind me about this particular scene with the house.
Okay.
Because it's going to carry into how I think the movie
We may
should
not
end.
make it to the fire scene.
Yeah.
Well, we're
Let's see. We'll see. You got.
We do got to speed it up a little
Okay.
bit.
Okay. So they go through how to be a house dog.
How to be a house
Eat,
dog.
like drink from the toilet, all the
Yeah,
fun stuff.
all the fun stuff. They get to Vegas.
They get to Vegas with this house, and like Bolt's kind of like he and Mittens are close now.
Yeah.
They're friends.
Mittens builds the whole.
They're kind of building their
yard.
own little family in this house.
Yeah.
We love a found family.
And they get to Vegas, and there's some really cool looking matte paintings in the background of Vegas because they did not animate some of it, so it's Cool. They go to the Bellagio to watch the fireworks. And
nice Ocean's 11 reference.
Yeah. What if it had just been like a 5-minute scene like the end of Ocean 11 where they're all standing there watching the thing? It's like
it would have been awful, but it would have been very, very funny.
So then Mittens builds like a cardboard box house for them to like stay in.
And she includes Rhino in it, which
includes Rhino in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be the 3 of them, and that's when Bolt says, "No, it's not going to be the 3. I need to get to Penny," and she reveals of her past of like, Penny is not real because my family, they told me it was real and then they left me. They moved and they didn't take me with them and I was abandoned.
They left a declawed cat out like alone.
And Bolt leaves. He says, I have to keep going, and he goes alone. And then Rhino and Mittens follow close behind him so that they can be there. They make it. Right when he gets to L.A., they also get to L.A.
Because Rhino asked Mittens where Bolt went, and then Rhino gives another, again, Rhino with the speeches propelling the plot forward. So then we cut to the soundstage with Penny and fake Bolt.
Yes.
Well, Bolt runs in and sees Penny like coming down to be like, "Come here, Bolt, come here."
Wait. First, he meets some pigeons. And they're LA dudes.
We talked about the LA pigeons.
And they're like, "Bro, what you need at the end of this episode to spice things up? Aliens, dude. What you need is aliens."
Do you need to leave by?
I need to leave by 12:30. If I left by 12:20, I could catch a bus. By 12:30, I need to call a lift.
Okay,
gotcha.
Cool. All right, so
I'll cover your lift. You get them 10 minutes.
The LA pigeons, they're pitching him the film, and it's aliens. All right, next bit. So then the soundstage, and then Penny does ask for Bolt.
So we're at the end of the movie. I don't think we have to rush for like 20 or 30 minutes.
I want to do my spiel about the ending.
The fake dog runs to her, and Bolt sees her reconnect, and he's like, "Oh, she's replaced me. I leave." But Mittens is there, and she sees how heartbroken Penny is and how much she misses him.
She's acting for the dog.
Yeah. So she runs in to Mittens, goes and grabs Bolt and says, "No, this is real. Coming from me, this is real." And Bolt senses the danger of unsafe fire safety on sets, which I am particularly interested in.
Where were the FSOs? Where were the fire safety officers?
You know what this scene really needed?
What?
We needed the AD at the beginning of the scene to come and be like, "All right, safety meeting. There's fire extinguishers on every wall. The exit's right there. We'll regroup in front of the production office. Make sure you don't leave before checking out with me or a PA."
Well, it's definitely true of like when you have real fire on set, someone just goes over the walkie and is like, "We have real fire. Don't be an idiot. Like if the building burns down, get out. We'll reconvene." And they could tell that they were like not planning on it being touched because
it's like tiki torches.
Yeah, the dog, the fake dog gets scared and jumps off, and he knocks the torch, and the whole set goes up. And I originally remembered that they abandoned Penny, that they left her on the rig and she was alone. But they had a safety release, and she got down and landed on a mat. But then they didn't know where to find her. The fire was spreading too fast, and she got stuck.
Because they tied her up, but they tie her up in a special way because this is true in Hollywood that since like, I don't remember what year it was, but like it was something where it's like you can't actually like tie up or handcuff an actor.
No.
You can't actually restrain an actor. Like anytime you have a scene where they're like cuffed or restrained or anything, they're always fake. Like you can just literally pull like the restraints out.
For this very reason, and also for a bunch of other safety reasons, but as an actor, I was taught that your body can't tell the difference between real and fake. And so if you pull and it resists, you will go into fight or flight mode, whether you know it's real or not.
Yeah.
That's why we do fight scenes in a certain way. That's why we do sword fighting. I did stage combat where I had to slap someone and we weren't far enough, and I almost slapped him because I was in it, and I felt my body change. It was really, really scary.
Yeah. So that's how like they tie Penny up in a way where it's like just like above her like wrist essentially, so she could technically like, release herself if she wanted
and she
to.
did. We watch her. She releases herself. She pulls the cord. She drops.
She has the inflatable thing at the bottom.
Yeah, she gets stuck. So there was safety precautions. It just wasn't enough, and that was a huge problem on sets for years.
Yeah,
fire safety.
So the fire breaks out. The fake dog is roast chicken at this point.
No, he makes it back to his trainer. Nice try.
Fuck that dog.
No, the dog's in the ending of the movie.
Bolt goes in to save her.
It's a more realistic dog though, because when they try to get the dog to fight like Calico, it just like whimpers away, and I'm like, that's the real stage dog. That's why you don't shoot with animals and kids on set, ladies and gentlemen. I just have too many horror stories with pets on set. Anyway, but
he saves her. I don't know. This is when I started crying because I understand that feeling of hopelessness.
Yeah.
That's a big fear. Like nightmare fear of mine of like not being able to escape, not being able to control.
Yeah.
And so when she tells the dog to go on without her, I was like, one, holy shit, this is a Disney movie.
Yeah.
It
But
does
also-
get like Toy Story 3-ish a little bit.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
but can you imagine being 15 and you just reunited with your like best friend of 5 years and you're like, you should live instead of me because I am literally too weak to go on. And then he barks, he does his super bark down the air shaft
And lets the firemen know where they are.
to let the firemen know where they are until he like runs out of energy and breath and passes out.
We cut. to
Who
black.
wasn't gonna cry for that?
Okay. So I'm going my little spiel.
Oh, I can't wait for this shit.
The dog should have died. And here's why. We're going to cut back to the house scene. And this would be, again, it doesn't have to have the Las Vegas like dogfight scene in it. It can work either way, but I feel like it'd make it even more powerful. But so Bolt, when he realizes he doesn't have his powers, he asks Mittens, it's like, what can I do for Penny if I'm not like a powerful dog? Like if I don't have any powers? And that's when she does the whole, this is how you be a dog. Just a real dog. You've never been a real dog before. And the ultimate lesson is it's like, ultimately, like you can drink out of the toilet, you can do all these things, but the bottom line when it comes down to being like a good dog, it's just being there for your owner.
Yeah.
And that's when
He was there though.
Bolt does the super bark and then passes out and just lays down next to Penny. And then it would fade to black. And then it cuts to that same thing where like the firefighters are breaking through the wall and they find the two of them. And Bolt's just there next to Penny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have
He's
been
dead.
just sad. It doesn't
Because
change
realistically
the...
speaking, like, you know, with the smoke and everything and like, you know, Bolt has smaller lungs than
Like,
Penny.
But he was
protects
also
Penny.
lower. Smoke rises.
But there's no oxygen in there,
Like,
in general.
Stuart, I very much don't disagree that is like a strong conclusion for a movie.
That he fulfilled
I
his
think
ultimate purpose as a
it is
dog.
a bit too miserable for a Disney family picture.
I think he
It also doesn't-
fulfilled-
Kids would be ruined.
I think it would have been A, more realistic, and B, more powerful of an ending. If
I
Bolt, who
don't
is
disagree.
That is
I
the
do not
coldest.
disagree
That
with
is
you.
the
whole
coldest fucking take I've
life.
ever heard.
his whole life he's been trained of what he's supposed to be as a dog, which is a super dog, until at the end he discovers what it really takes to be a dog, which is to just be there for your owner.
but
And at
he
the
is
end,
there. That's
at the
the
end,
whole point at the end.
At the end, he fulfills that purpose.
By being with her as a
He
normal
fulfills-
dog.
He fulfills the purpose and he gets to live on
completes
afterward.
his arc.
Yes, in a structural story, if Bolt was a human, that is the logical way you would end this movie. But he is not a human. He is a dog, and that would be disastrous and depressing.
I invite the audience to comment on all of our platforms at this point.
Yeah.
Do you think the dog should have died at the end of Bolt?
like there.
I think
If
so.
anybody who comments yes, my Instagram is Ang Gardner art. Go ahead and block me. I actually have no interest in talking to you. Personally, I think you and I would both do better if we did not engage any longer. That goes for you too, Stuart. Like, what the hell?
Dog should have died. Dog should have died.
Cold ass
Would have been a better
take.
movie. Would have been.
I did love the 2D animation homage at the end when they
Yeah.
were doing the scenes of him and Penny being normal together, and noticed she didn't have a dad. She had a dad in the show with no mom, and then a mom in real life but no dad. Fascinating.
This is true.
Ultimately, yeah, the dog doesn't die. The firefighters break through. They get both Penny and Bolt out, and then
They
they're all-
reboot the show with a new actor.
Yeah, they do the whole like, all right, so we couldn't.
Your head was burned in
your
the fire.
face was burned and your fire.
Reconstructed.
So they
There's a new
reconstructed
actress.
a new actress. Yeah.
With a different voice, which I
Yeah.
liked.
Dr. Calico attempts to kill her in the show, and then who shows up?
Aliens.
And Dr. Calico's like, aliens.
And then Rhino turns the TV off, and
It's like, lame.
that's not realistic at all. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, it just shows the Penny with Mittens and Rhino all in the same household.
In a beautiful rambler off in the country somewhere.
where we get pigeons with like a hick accent, like,
Yeah.
I have no idea who that dog is.
I don't know. I think that's nice. I definitely think it's nice if you were a young child star, right, or a young
Yeah.
or a dog actor, and to not be recognized is sometimes the only thing you want and the only thing you can't buy.
Yeah.
Like, I just like the idea of Penny going to a normal school
They
and
get to
everybody
live on a
being
little
like,
ranch.
everybody's like, "Do you want to do like the theater club or whatever?" And she's like, "No, I don't. I
Yeah.
have no interest. I am going to play chess."
And then the movie ends with a nice little Penny takes a selfie with her little Polaroid camera.
I did not enjoy that bit of like she takes a Polaroid picture at the
Yeah.
end of every take with her dog.
Shake, shake, shake it like a bull. Keep going.
No thanks, I'm good.
Picture.
I'm just gonna let you.
Outcast just came into the studio.
And that's the
thank you,
movie.
Outcast.
That is.
And the credits
Bolt.
start, and what do we get? A John Travolta, Miley Cyrus collab called "I Thought I Lost You,"
Which honestly,
and it
very
whips.
It does whip.
Shit whips. It's like I thought I lost you.
When you went looking for me, I don't know. As far as songs go, I was like, yeah, this slaps. I let it play when I was
Got
making
nominated for a
dinner.
Golden Globe for Best Original Song.
Really?
Did.
And they deserved it. They didn't win. Who won?
I don't know who won that year.
But yeah, that is the movie Bolt. And Jeff, how'd this movie do post-text
Well,
wise?
first, I want to say that it lost Best Original Song to "The Wrestler" by Bruce Springsteen for "The Wrestler." It was also nominated along with "Down to Earth" from Wally, "Gran Torino" from Gran Torino, and "Once in a Lifetime" from Cadillac Records.
All right. Well, that's, tough competition.
I think the Gran Torino performed by Clint Eastwood. Gran Torino, down, down, down. I don't remember.
So
how
the
song goes.
post-mortem on this, I definitely expected this to just be a nostalgic movie for myself. It was very easy. I felt it was very easy for me to consume, but I did enjoy it. Does a movie entertain you? I was entertained.
Very much so. And okay, never mind. I thought I misread something. But no, before we get into the postmortem, I would like to say, Stuart, we have to do something. It's time to do the hair ranking, and you got to step up for this.
All right, cue
I can see the
music.
reflection in there's a reflective surface behind you. Are you pulling up the?
All right,
Oh, yeah.
hold on. Let's cue the music.
The fur ranking.
I'm
You're
putting.
gonna welcome folks to the hair ranking or what?
Well, so
I don't even know what I'm looking at right now.
okay. Am I putting this in the hair ranking, or am I putting this in its own
It's
category?
going in the hair ranking.
It's
So
going
is it,
in the hair
Is
ranking.
it the hair of Bolt or is it the hair of John Travolta recording the
Bolt.
movie?
We ranked his character and our friend Martin of the character's hair. So we got to
Bolt-
continue
So
that.
I
thing.
think Bolt's got like a crew
All right,
cut.
put it above our friend Martin, below Face Off Cage.
Oh, you're just putting it there because it's another animated movie.
You bet your sweet ass I am.
That's lame.
Very lame.
I think it should be up to the top. He looks really nice in
he
this
does.
movie.
You know what? Bolt looks
It's not
crisp.
John Travolta's hair.
It is though.
It's an animated dog's hair.
Yeah,
It's probably not even
but it's
hair
a really
technology.
nice
I
fur.
think
It's a
grass.
really nice coat.
I'm
isn't
sure
It is good fur
I'm
texture.
sure it is.
good fur.
But John Travolta and his hairdresser did not do work.
Maybe
they did not.
Maybe
Someone
they
did work.
Maybe he consulted.
someone's
Maybe he
whole
consulted
job.
on it.
When we talked about Edna Mode's and Edna Turnblad's hair last week, that was work. This is not work.
This is work. Someone had to animate that hair.
Yeah,
and John
but-
Travolta was like, "Oh, that's just fantastic. That's just fantastic." That's
Well,
the only thing.
Well, that's where it's going on my hair ranking. You can disagree if you'd like, but
I strongly disagree.
okay, that's
I
fine.
would also like to point out that our hair ranking, I just noticed, does have a second category. We have John Travolta's hair ranking, and then we have one category that just says The Rock and Be Cool as number one for its own category.
But it is really good hair. It's a great afro. Okay.
It is.
All
All right, so that's post-text now, Jeff.
Post-mortem from Stuart is that it was a good movie but not depressing enough. Is that what I heard from you?
I mean, you kind of said it, what I agreed with, which was this movie just barely touches on some really deep, and troubling topics that deserve to be touched upon, but it just kind of grazed over the surface level of it, like especially with Mittens. And I think that's kind of the thing with, it doesn't really hit home the trauma that this dog has really been through with thinking its entire life that its owner is in grave mortal danger. And so I just think that this movie deserved to I wish that it had dug its heels deep with, like if Wally can basically die at the end of Wally, this dog.
That wasn't Disney though. That was Pixar.
And he survives. Is the
He
thing.
does
He comes
survive.
back.
Would you have rather he died?
You can kill a character and bring them back in these things.
Penny could have got a new dog.
No,
Jesus
if in
Christ.
your version of this movie, it should, if that had been the ending, it would have had to just ended with her adopting Mittens and
Yeah.
Rhino.
Mittens and Rhino.
So
And the dog dies.
I
It
want
dies a superhero, but a superhero in the realest way possible.
and he lives as a superhero at the end in the realest way possible too. So this movie comes out. Oh, first before I do this, I would like to just quickly go to our section from the depths of IMDb trivia, where you find Some people just write the craziest shit in there. Here's someone took on a day and wrote down, while Bolt believes he has superpowers, he is self-confident, but when he finds out that he is not a superhero, his self-confidence vanishes. This is a clear case of the Dunning-Kruger effect, situation in which one's initial self-confidence is high due to his or her lack of knowledge, which decreases in par with knowledge and increases again when the one becomes expert. And I'm like, great. Why is this an IMDb trivia? Who wrote this? Who watched this movie? Was like, I'm gonna write an IMDb trivia about the Dunning-Kruger effects instance of.
Maybe,
that's not
someone
trivia.
Who's got a film podcast.
That's not trivia. That's an analysis of the movie. It's not trivia.
All right, so how'd this movie do at the box office, Jeff?
Okay. Now I got that out of my system.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So this movie comes out. What day did it come out? It came out November 21st of 2008.
Oh, right before Thanksgiving. This makes sense.
And right after the housing market crash.
When it came out, it was accompanied by a Pixar short called Tokyo Mater.
Oh, yeah.
If anyone remembers this. Yes. This was right around the time of the financial crisis.
Hey, you know.
Obama had just been elected, like 2 weeks before this movie came out.
He had been elected? He hadn't been inaugurated, though.
No, he was it was the period in between his election and the inauguration. So Bush
A lawless time.
It was still the Bush administration at the time this movie came out.
Yeah.
But it comes out on November 21st. And it gets great reviews. It's the first Disney movie to get great reviews in a while. It has an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. General audience reception is that, like, it's pleasant, it's fun, Travolta's good in it. It's nothing you haven't seen before, but it's a good movie.
My housing crisis, my house has now lost exponential value. I need to watch something happy.
Yes, I need to watch something happy. The economy is collapsing right now.
Let's watch a dog die.
Yeah. The U.S. is embroiled in 2 foreign wars. The economy is collapsing. Everything is bad. But dog pretty good, though.
Dog do funny thing.
Dog do funny thing.
Pigeon with New York accent.
Pigeon be funny, though. Yeah, it comes out, gets good reviews, does pretty well at the box office. It opens number 3 in its opening weekend, which is, like, kind of bad. But it's up against Twilight and Quantum of Solace.
Yeah, that's tough.
So that's why, like, this isn't that level.
The first Twilight?
The first Twilight.
Yeah.
This comes out the same weekend
you
as
actually
Twilight.
have to sign off on the number 1. It's like racing against Usain Bolt. You're like, second place is first
It's
in
great.
that situation.
But this movie, it does pretty well in terms of, it's, Disney movies don't always have the biggest opening weekends. They have long runs, though.
Yeah.
Because parents aren't flocking to opening weekend to see a movie with their kids.
No.
Sometimes. It's like, if you go to see the new Marvel movie, that's like you go opening weekend, you're seeing that movie. Whereas like at Disney movie, it's like, oh, I'll take the kids in a few weeks when it's a little quieter or we have some more free time. So this movie kind of has legs. It runs through. It went to number 2 its second weekend. So it rose. Ends up grossing $114 million in the U.S., $195 internationally, makes $310 million worldwide.
What's its budget?
Budget of $150 million.
Oh, so they made double their budget.
They made
That's
double
2
their budget
movies.
worldwide.
That's nice.
Which basically, like, it makes their profit back. It's not like a rousing success for Disney, but it's a pretty good success compared.
It's enough. I mean, you pay all your people and you have some left over. That's a success.
It's enough for Disney to be like, okay, Lasseter's bringing this back. And then, when he has straight hits afterward up through Frozen, which is a monster success, it really cements his claws on Disney at the time until his claws are cemented on something else and he gets fired for it.
Woo! We love consequences to our actions.
But this goes on. It gets nominated for Best Original Animated Feature at
Really?
the Oscars. It loses to WALL-E.
Good.
Rightfully so.
It gets nominated for a lot of Best Animated Films. Pretty much loses all of them to WALL-E, except for like 2. It loses the Kids' Choice Awards to Madagascar: Escape to Africa, which is just depressing.
Madagascar Escape to Africa was a good film.
I'm not saying it's a bad movie.
The circus one, is it Escape from Africa or Escape to
Escape
Africa?
2 is the second one.
Yeah. That was a good movie. The third one was a little tough.
My counterpoint to you on Madagascar 2 is that there's a section in which Will.I.am plays a rhinoceros, a hippo, who emerges out of a mud bath to a song of him rapping, "I like 'em funky, I like 'em chunky." It's about how he likes.
Excuse me, I like 'em big, I like 'em chunky, I like 'em round with something
he remembers.
funky.
He remembers.
I like 'em blumpy.
Oh, you know the song.
Yeah, it was a fucking hit. And it was a great piece about like loving someone for their beauty is not enough. You need to love them for who they are, as Melman does, and it cements the end of Nice Guys Finish Last.
This is Vanessa. She's really nice.
Oh, are you doing these are my ladies?
These are my ladies.
Oh my God, he's doing the Will.i.am voice too. Oh my God. Remember when Will.i.am was a thing for like 1 year, in terms of movies?
He was busy.
Like he was in 2009, he was in Madagascar 2, X-Men Origins Wolverine. He's in a lot of movies for like 1 year, and then he just never appears again.
Well, he probably did it and was like, this is too much. I'm done. I'm going back to music.
Everyone's like, all right, that was a mistake. we didn't need that.
All right, so that's Bolt.
That is Bolt.
That is Bolt. Yeah, I'm looking. He was in 3 movies that year, and then he only ever does Rio and Rio 2 afterward, and that's it.
Another top hit. I mean, what I'm hearing is that he's only done bangers. Was he in Twilight?
He was not in Twilight.
Damn.
There's a guy who looks like him in Twilight, but he is not him.
Moving on.
This also has a moderately successful app mobile game called Rhino Ball.
Yes, I remember that, and I remember the toys at McDonald's.
Yes.
I mean, they did it all, right? It was
it's the whole Disney.
Yeah. I think I remember the toys for Mittens. I don't remember the toys for Bolt, but I remember looking at the Mittens toys.
I haven't seen this movie in like 12 years.
Yeah.
To do my quick postmortem on it. I really enjoyed rewatching.
Yeah.
It was exactly the movie I needed yesterday morning.
Yeah.
I woke up and had a rough morning yesterday, and this was like exactly the kind of happy-go-lucky movie I needed right at that time. Just be like, yeah, this is the mood change I need right now.
Yeah, I was the same way. I watched it yesterday night, and I sat down and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna watch the whole thing. I'll pause it, and then I'll eat, and then I'll see how I feel. And I paused it right when I felt like it, and I was like, this is perfect. Made some food, watched it. It was exactly what I wanted.
Good
little
movie.
popcorn movie.
And I think that's about it. And Jenny, last thoughts? Stuart, any last thoughts on Bolt?
Just dog should die.
I think we had a pretty rousing discussion, a pretty bolting discussion about this movie.
Yeah, and I mean, always good to know that Stuart has no moral compass.
Yeah, as always.
Yeah.
And
It was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
It was a pleasure to have you on. It's nice to have a guest come in with a lot of context of their own.
Yeah, I would like to point out that you helped get me one of my first big film jobs when I talked to you.
Oh, yes.
And I was booked on this on July, and it was an hour before you booked me, or you said I will help you get onto your show. So this is my thank you for giving me a start in the film industry.
The pipeline to Ange coming on to this was... I was like, yeah, I'll hire you on this thing. And she's like, I will do any episode of your podcast. And I'm like,
No. You said, do you want to be on the podcast? And I was like, is Hairspray open? You said no. And I said, what animated movie do you have? Bolt. I'll happily do Bolt. It'll be in January. January's so far away. I'll never make it that long. Sounds good. And then you said, would you want to work on the show we work on? And I said, yes.
Yeah. So thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for
It's a pleasure
having
to work with you. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah.
You came prepared. Great guest.
Bring me anytime.
Oh, you will be back. You will be back.
Yeah, for The Mummy, which I've never seen.
You will be back for an episode that's coming very soon. Everyone's coming back for that one. Stuart is dying inside as I say this because he knows it's going to be so much work for him. Anyway.
Thank you again.
Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, whatever platform you're listening. As a reminder, we are available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Pop to our Reddit, r/Travolting. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram at TravoltingPod. Email us travoltingpodcast@gmail.com. Find me on Twitter at Jeff W. Sweeney.
You can find me on Instagram at StuartElmore95.
And anything you want to plug?
I already plugged my Instagram, telling people who think Bolt should die to block me.
Yes.
So
This
you
is
can go back. I am Ang Gardner Art on Instagram.
Yes.
Hashtag Bolt should die.
And as always, special thanks to Rebecca Johnson for graphic design, Nicole Johnson for social media, and Michael Van Bodegum Smith for our theme music that is taking you out. And there will be some special surprises with that coming soon.
Bye, folks.
Thank you.